Hello, it's a pleasure to be here with you on Water Day in 2022 and talking about advancing the geographic and temporal understanding of groundwater in Canada. Approximately 30% of Canadians rely on groundwater as potable water source, and this percentage can be as high as 100 on the island province of Prince Edward Island. In a national review by Lyndon Nolan, groundwater has been referred to as the buried treasure. This analogy is appropriate as groundwater is hidden from sight and difficult to visualize and characterize from a quantity and quality perspective. A strong visual analog for groundwater is the sponge, material full of small pores that soak up and release water under different conditions. Sponges can also have cracks or tears in them, which are analogous to fractures in rock. The use of medical CT scan imagery of two rock cores highlights the porosity and amount of connected porosity or permeability. The left image of each animation is a scan of a dry state, and the right a scan of the core saturated with water. Note the color ramp for the saturated sample indicates how much water is present, with green being around 25% and red 50%. Also note the strong asymmetry in the porosity of the right-hand sample, indicating a vertical structure that was intercepted by half the core. Nature of the sponge and environmental, physiographic, and geological controls on groundwater have been summarized for Canada into 9 hydrogeological regions. Each of the regions have considerable differences that will strongly influence recharge of groundwater flow paths, and residence times, and hence water chemistry, and the depth of transition from shallow potable water to brackish water to saline basin fluids. The figure of Southern Ontario highlights these 3 zones and the occurrence of potable water at shallow depths, generally less than 200 meters beneath the land surface. To understand groundwater resources, it is common to construct numeric groundwater models. To build such models requires a great deal of information on the subsurface geology, the hydrostratigraphy. That is, the vertical and horizontal arrangement of geological materials. The animation for Southern Ontario highlights the hydrostratigraphy of the sedimentary layers and alternating water-bearing units, aquifers, and non-water-bearing units, aquitards. Numeric groundwater models apply physical principles of groundwater flow and properties of geological materials to model the flow paths and flow rates of groundwater. In the associated animation, surface water first ponds at the land surface, gradually seeps downwards, and with the interception of fractures, flows faster along these preferential flow paths to the water table and deeper aquifer units. Coupled groundwater surface water models and land surface models are important components in interpreting one of the most exciting data sets quantifying temporal change in water storage, the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, GRACE. An illustrative analysis for Canada of the 19-year average from 2002 to 2021 highlights geographic trends. Drier conditions in Baffin in the Mackenzie River Basin, reds and pinks, and wetter conditions in Angava region of Quebec, pale blue. The analysis can also be completed on an annual to seasonal basis, with 20-year trend highlighted for the southern prairie provinces in the Nelson River watershed. In this example, a 15-year trend of increasing water storage correlates well with a decade of increasing floods in the prairie provinces. Perhaps ominously, the last several years suggest a change in that trend and a decrease in water storage. GRACE is a relatively coarse tool and provides only a gross assessment of water storage with no segregation of groundwater from soil moisture from surface water. That highlights the need for integrated multidisciplinary science, integrating field-based methods with remote sensing and numeric modeling. This is an objective of a collaborative project at the Geological Survey of Canada with Aquanti Incorporated and universities to provide physically based numeric modeling framework for Canada called Canada One Water. If you're interested in additional information on groundwater resources in Canada, then check out the Groundwater Project and a YouTube presentation by Alfonso Rivera, editor of Canada's Groundwater Resources.